I think the most important thing is building that rapport is important early on. You wouldn't just go to a brand and go, hey, I'd like to do this for you. Let's work together. It's building the rapport early on. So if you meet them at PAXs or any other events, building the rapport, telling them who you are, what you do. You need to have that genuine passion for the brand as well. I think that comes across really positively, because I do know a lot of people who will come to you and go, I want to work with you, but they know nothing about the brand, they know nothing about the products, they have no genuine interest in the products, and it comes across. I think anyway, we live in this age where people want to connect with someone real. People want to connect with someone that they can feel a kinship with. I watch TikTok for the entertainment value. It's funny, I like it, I hit like, and then I move on. But when I watch a live stream, if I find someone I click with, I'll stay and I'll come back every time. So one of the key things that I've constantly seen is they want a specific skill set. They want people who can understand.
Welcome, creators, to the Crator Dashboard, where we interview and learn as much as we can from amazing content creators throughout Australia and eventually, hopefully, the world. And so today I've got MissDeusGeek here on our podcast, and we're going to be diving into a little bit of her background, which is predominantly written content. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Nice to be here.
That's awesome. So give us a bit of a rundown as to the kind of content and kind of stuff that you do yourself.
So as you mentioned, predominantly it has been written, but I have since transitioned into very recently more video content on socials and doing a lot more, I suppose, engaging content and educational content around all things pop culture and gaming. So yeah, basically anything and everything that excites me in a particular time.
Perfect. So how long have you been doing it for?
This would be my 10th year.
That's a long time.
It doesn't feel like a long time, but when you think about it, yes, it has been a long time.
Yeah. So what started, like, where did you start in this journey?
So I actually started with setting up my website, Attack on Geek. I did that back in 2015, and basically it all started because this is a story that I think if you dig deep into the archives, you'll find I absolutely did not like the Fantastic Four reboot that came out in 2015. I'm a Marvel girl. I collect comics. I've been doing it my whole life. So I am very entrenched into the source material. And this movie just absolutely killed my entire love for the Fantastic Four, especially because I grew up with the original movies as well. So I didn't have a lot of people around me that enjoyed comics and Marvel content. And this was back in 2015. It wasn't, the MCU hadn't really boomed the way it has, in recent years. So I didn't really have a lot of people to talk to. And so I thought, okay, my partner, who's now my husband, I could talk to him a little bit, but not in the way that I really wanted to have.
You just wanted to have that really intense conversation where you're like, this is happening. And then,
and really have that meaty conversation, It's not just that surface level of, did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? So I set up, at that time, it was like a blogspot blog, and started writing my review of it. And that review got picked up by another website who, I believe he's a gaming website at the time. And he saw my writing and was like, hey, do you want to send that over to me and I can publish it and give you a ping back to your blog. And so I was looking into that and realized I really enjoyed writing my opinions, because not only was I getting people from all over the world commenting and us having a dialogue, but I was able to then do something with my passions.
Yep.
More so than just, talking to friends about it. And so I turned the blog into a proper website and started writing reviews for not only films, but TV shows, games, comic books. And it sort of blew up beyond my imagination. I never expected it to go anywhere, but people started to read my stuff, and it became almost like a hub. And this is back in New Zealand, where, the pop culture industry at the time anyway, was very small. And so because it's so small, because I was, I guess, the homegrown Kiwi girl trying to,
Yep.
break into this space, it started to grow beyond anything I ever imagined. And then I started to think, okay, well, I can reach out to gaming brands now for review
Mm.
codes, early access. My husband was streaming for Microsoft at the time, and so he then got me involved in the live streaming space.
Yeah. Right.
And through that, I developed I guess, a passion for talking to people in real time online through streams.
Yep.
And so then I can't remember how exactly, but I ended up streaming for Xbox as well. And that was the beginning of me being an Xbox girl, basically, because I
Right. Yep.
just fell in love with Xbox and everything that they were doing to really, like we see what they're doing now with accessibility and gaming for everyone. But it actually started a long time ago. They were actually looking to make games so accessible and open for everyone. They were paying people through Microsoft credits, not actual proper money. But so I have to say that. But they were, giving back to people who wanted to stream their games and help put forward their games into a wider audience and all of that. So, yeah, that's essentially how it started. I got a taste for writing, started up my website, started
Yep.
working with brands, and then started streaming, which then led to obviously my whole pathway to becoming a partnered streamer on Mixer, which was Microsoft's platform until they decided it no
Yep.
longer was a thing.
Yep.
And then the rest is history, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So a lot of your content came from writing, and
Yes.
I guess back in 2015, you probably had a bit of a first movers advantage, being one of the first to do written content on, I guess, pop culture, because there probably wasn't much going on at the time.
I guess in Australia, New Zealand, it was your typical IGN, Kotaku.
Yeah.
There were a few more, fan-based websites. I mean,
Mm.
Press Start was around at that time, maybe not to the height as it is now, but
Yeah.
it was around, well played.
Yeah.
Things like Future 5 in New Zealand, which is a kind of part of a larger network of media.
Yeah.
So, like, there was some presence,
Mm.
but it wasn't as big as it is now.
Yeah.
And I say big, but writing obviously now is very different to
Yeah.
back then, where people were actually looking and reading reviews, whereas now you just watch a video on
Video.
YouTube.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because I think it's interesting though. Like there was obviously, so kind of going back to what I was saying. You did necessarily, so you did have a first mover's advantage, not in the sense that. So I kind of take back what I was saying about there being other competition, but you were like your own brand.
Yes.
So you were doing what a lot of people are doing now, developing their own brand and becoming personal brands rather than being part of Press Start and using them. So you had the tools to equip yourself with a website, basically, to do it yourself. And so I think was a very unique thing back then. Do you still do written reviews now for yourself?
From time to time, I have transitioned from doing everything. So I used to write every news piece, every article, every editorial piece, every opinion piece on everything. I've since scaled it back to things that I personally care about. So very much now it's either like things like coverage of PAX, for example, like my weekend at PAX, or a lot of it is now Marvel reviews, like pop culture movie reviews of films that I genuinely want to talk about.
Yep.
So it's because of that transition now where I'm doing more social media content. I just don't have the time and energy to cover everything. And written is a lot of work. I mean, don't get me wrong, video is a lot of work as well. Social media content is a lot of work, but written, there's something about it where you have to be in that right frame of mind to be able to write something that people can connect with and feel something reading it.
Yep.
I mean, I could just write, a stock standard, like this is my thoughts. I'm not that kind of writer. I don't generally like to write things as just facts. I mean, obviously I say plain facts. I like to embellish and make sure that there's feeling and emotion, and I'm a storyteller, so I try to tell a story.
Sure it's entertaining content to an extent.
Yeah. And I want people to walk away feeling something when they read my piece. Yeah.
Okay. So from that written content, so you
Mhm.
mentioned before that you're now doing a bit of video and
Mhm.
stuff. How does your written content help? Has it helped you with your video stuff?
Very much so. So everything that I do, even if it's like a 30-second Instagram reel, I
Mm.
write a script for.
Yep.
So I write scripts every time I do a piece of content that is video focused, even audio focused.
Yep.
If I'm doing a voiceover, there's still a script that I write. And I write it in a similar way to my reviews because I'm still, again, telling a story.
Yep.
That's the kind of content that I really enjoy doing. I've had to succumb to the algorithms from time to time and just do meme contests because sometimes that's what works. But
Yep.
the ones that I genuinely enjoy doing are the pieces where I can write a script that is basically a story and then translate that into either a voiceover or a video. And I should be turning them into pieces for the website. I just haven't really thought that far ahead in terms
Mm.
of my capabilities and time.
Yeah.
Time
Yeah.
is the hardest thing to juggle at the moment with everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely having done reviews, having done so many different types of opinion pieces and editorial content,
Yep.
it's really helped translate, I guess, reviews into scripts.
Yeah. I think so. It helps me a lot when I write about the stuff, and I'm not a very good writer, so I'm terrible actually. But it does help you kind of piece together a script a lot better, and it makes the videos come together a lot more. And I think a lot of
Mm,
people could probably learn from that.
yeah.
It does make the process slower, but I believe that it improves the content immensely because there's a bit more structure to it. Have you
Mm.
seen like how have you seen it affecting? Have you seen like good success from that approach with your videos?
I think so. I generally struggle, like, even now, I'm sure viewers will probably see where I'm like, I'm pausing for a moment and trying to think and talk at the same time. So when you're doing a video that's trying to be educational but entertaining and
Mm.
also engaging, if you just wing it, some people can do it really well, don't get me wrong. But
Yep.
I'm the kind of person that I cannot do that unless I'm live streaming. For
Mm.
some reason, live streaming I can manage, manage chat, stream, play the game, talk to people, answer questions, all of that at once.
Yep.
But when I'm doing a produced video, it's such a struggle if I don't have that script
Yeah.
and I know exactly what I'm going to talk to. Sometimes it's not a full-blown script, sometimes it's
Mm.
just bullet points,
Yep.
but I need to have that structure because otherwise I would just end up, going off a tangent, or I might say something and then suddenly a thought will come up and then I'll go somewhere else, and it's just the flow gets interrupted so much.
Yep. How can somebody improve on that?
I genuinely think just bullet points,
Yep.
just bullet pointing your thought process, like figure out what, I suppose I should say, I do this in marketing as well, like at my day jobs. I always look at what is the objective and work backwards. So for me, it's what is the objective of the video? Am I trying to inform? Am I trying to engage? Am I trying to get a laugh out of someone? Whatever
Mm.
that objective is, working backwards as to, okay, what is the story? And bullet pointing, these are the key things I want to say, and then going from there. So I think, you don't have to be an amazing writer to write a script. You
Yep.
just need to know how you're going to structure your video and what that objective is that you're trying to achieve.
Mm.
Because ultimately, you need to meet that objective.
Yep.
So that would be my main advice to people who are, not necessarily the best writers, who are afraid to put, thoughts onto paper.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to put thoughts onto paper because, like I said, you can go off tangent otherwise. And, you only have 3 seconds to hook someone when you watch a
Yeah.
video.
Exactly.
If you don't put your thoughts in order,
Well, you've got
you
three
may
seconds to
not
hook
have.
someone, and then you've
Mhm.
got like a limited amount of time to actually deliver on the hook.
Yes. Yeah,
Right. So
that's true as well.
if you're not concisely putting that information out there, that's when you get
Mm.
people in the comment section going, at 3 minutes 45, this is where the solution comes up. Because
In saying that, though, one thing I've noticed is if you're putting out like a 10-minute or longer video, people generally do stay. And then even if you start to lose the plot a little bit, people will stay because it's one of those things. I think the psychology of how people view things, like audience, and I do this at work again. It's thinking about the psychology of how people consume media.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much, they've put so much time into the video already
Yeah.
that it's like, I just want to stay just to see if he comes back to the point.
Well, that's a good point. There's probably like a bit of a some they've already like committed. They've clicked on the video.
Yeah.
They're already there. They haven't clicked out in
Hmm.
the first 30 seconds. You know,
Yeah.
they've grabbed their food that they were going to sit down and eat while they're watching.
Yeah.
They're already halfway through eating. It's harder to click away. um,
And,
but
like you mentioned earlier as well, like a lot of times it's in the background as well, so they're just letting it run in the background.
that's right. It's like, oh well, it's on there. They're tangenting. I guess there is. I guess it comes down to how well you can tell the story and how well you can kind of,
Yeah.
if you are going to go on tangents, if you are going to dot point and not follow a strict script, you've still got to like keep yourself in check. Don't want to go too far, because sometimes nuggets come out of tangents, but then
True.
you don't want to be going too far down off the beaten track that all of a sudden you're talking about something completely off topic. But I guess that comes with practice, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I definitely agree. Like practice is so important, because as much as I can write, as much as I can write scripts and all of that, even my voiceovers and all of that, I've had to do multiple times till I get it right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just, that's the biggest thing. And I guess having all that experience doing all that writing has probably helped give you a bit of a good leap start into doing video content. Because I speak to a lot of people, and I watch their content and I can see why I can see that they haven't scripted it. And, I've also made the mistakes, and you can see if they were to put their points into more structured, like into a more structured flow, it'd probably be delivered a lot better. So like there's a lot that can be learnt from there. And personally, I've done a lot of writing. I'm not good at it, like I said, but I've done a lot of writing. I actually do content writing for work as well.
Yeah.
And it helps me immensely with my YouTube videos by being able to just write down my thoughts. And at least then you can see if it makes sense when you read it back and you're like, okay, yeah, this isn't working. So I think it's a very important skill that I think
Very
a lot of
much
people are
so.
forgetting, because video is so accessible.
I agree. It's sad to say, but I think as we progress more into the future, writing is not as important, which is sad, because, a lot of good can come from just having that skill of being able to write,
Yep.
even if it's a paragraph. Just putting your thoughts in a way that has a format that flows properly. I think a lot of people can learn so much from that, because not only does it help you organize your thoughts, it helps you speak. It helps you, portray what you're wanting to portray out into the world in a way that everyone's going to be able to understand. Because, I could just talk to you about, let's say, the latest Marvel movie, and I'll just go off tangent because I'll be having my passions thrown in there, my whatever I hate about it, whatever I love about it, it'll go all over the place. But if I had written it down, I can tell you a story that's going to get you interested in what I have to say.
And I think that's like, if we're going to start talking about YouTube videos, YouTube videos and written blogs and articles have the same thing in common, that they are delivering a story and trying to provide some kind of entertainment or education. So if you can the better you can tell a story in your videos, the better, the more engaging and the more people are going to like it. And I think that's, I think, a fundamental thing. I watch a lot of YouTube videos on how to tell good stories. And I'm not, I say I'm not good at it. I always think about the times, you're talking to someone, you're trying to tell them a story, and then you get to what you think is like the plot line, and then it doesn't hit, and you're like, okay, so I'm gonna go watch some more videos on YouTube on how to deliver good stories. I guess it all comes down to practice, but it's just tricky, because a lot of people in the content creator space, their Twitch streaming kind of leads people to believe that that's the same kind of content, where going live is so easy to go, like, it's more conversational, whereas it's not like a pre-delivered piece of content. So it has kind of robbed people a lot of that storytelling elements.
Very much so.
I think it's misguided a lot of people there.
Yeah.
On that same note, sorry, I'm tangenting now.
No, it's all good.
There's live streamers who tell stories throughout their streams, they're the ones that do really well, though.
I think it's a combination of being able to portray something, whether that's storytelling or whether that's your personality or whether you're being educational in helping the viewers understand how to do a certain thing in a
Mm.
game, however way they want to frame their content live in a live stream.
Yep.
It's very different to when you're watching a YouTube video. In a YouTube video, generally speaking, you're wanting to learn something, you're wanting to be entertained, or you're wanting to just see what is happening
Yep.
in the world or whatnot. And I think with live streams, you're not really looking for those things when you go in and watch a live stream. You're just sitting there wanting to connect with the person.
Yep.
And I think that's very different because personality sometimes doesn't come through when you're on a YouTube or Instagram reel or TikTok.
Mm.
Um, like I talk about TikTok a lot because I find that the people that I watch, generally speaking, it's a different persona completely to who they really are.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yep.
so, you're not getting that real person. Whereas with the live stream, you can see that real person in their home environment or whatnot. Like I love watching live streamers who have pets around them
Yep.
because how they interact with their pets, I feel such a connection with them because I have two cats and I'm like that with my cats. I'm terrible at games. I've always told this to everyone. My live stream, I have a segment called Noob Girl Plays, and that's
Yep.
because I'm an absolute noob. And people know that if they're watching me in my element as this terrible, terrible gamer that they need to come and help.
Yep.
And so you get that you don't get on something that is like a VOD or a produced piece of content.
Mm. That's interesting. It's a good point because like I don't have TikTok on my phone anymore. I deleted it. Um,
It's
but
probably for the best.
yeah, but when I used to consume a lot of TikTok, and even just like what I hear about people is that you're right in that what you see in someone's TikTok is not really them, and it can be you can consume multiple pieces of one person's content and still not really connect with that person.
Mm.
And so I think that's why it's so hard to make good TikTok content. Well, I mean, like not make good, but grow a consistent audience on TikTok. I think a lot of people, they get those viral videos that pop off, but that's kind of where they sit. That's it, because they're not really. It's a lot harder in those few seconds that you've got to like get your personality across for them to actually like, oh yeah, I'll follow this person. So it's an
Yeah.
interesting way to put it.
That's at least how I feel when I watch TikTok content. I will admit I am one of those people who brain rot. I sit in bed and watch TikTok a lot. But I learn so much from it because
Yeah.
obviously I work in content marketing. And so I typically have to be on TikTok to see what's trending, what's working, what's everyone talking about.
Yeah.
And I remember so for example, I can't remember her name. Basically, she did this trend that was the very demure, very modest, I'd show up to work and blah, blah, and everyone did it. And so when you look at that sort of trend that happens on TikTok, how do you know that the person doing that trend, like what is that person's personality?
Yeah.
Because they're
Yeah.
doing it for the entertainment value, for that virality, for that
Mm.
content in that moment. I followed this Malaysian woman who's here in Melbourne called Liana Kia. She's basically an actress, a singer, and then a comedian as well. And her persona on her TikTok is the Asian mom stereotype.
Yep.
And so, you see that, and then sometimes she does like all these other skits and whatnot. But who is Liana Kia really?
Yeah.
And I think we live in this, I think anyway, we live in this age where people want to connect with someone real. People want to connect with someone that they can feel a kinship with.
Yep.
I watch TikTok for the entertainment value. It's funny. I like it. I hit like and then I move on.
Yep.
But when I watch a live stream, if I find someone I click with, I'll stay and I'll come back every time.
Mm.
And then obviously with YouTube, if there's someone who's providing me with educational content, like my husband does Magic the Gathering rules content,
Yep.
people come to watch because they want to understand what is the rule for this particular set, or how do cards interact with one another?
Yeah.
All of that sort of thing. So they keep coming back because they know he's going to provide that educational value.
Yep. And they
So
like how
I
he
think,
delivers it.
yeah, it's very I guess that's how I look at all these different platforms. There's each platform may seem so similar. And people talk about how Instagram's trying to be TikTok and they used to want to be like Snapchat, but really each platform has their specific purpose.
Mm. Yeah,
And so
well,
I find it really
that's
interesting.
that's a good way to put it, because if they didn't have a specific purpose, like they wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So like platforms that don't serve a purpose, like if there are two platforms with the exact same purpose, they would just fizzle out. They would cease to exist, because you can't
Yeah.
have the same thing across two. So I guess that's a good example of this is Blue Sky,
Yeah.
where a lot of people, like Blue Sky came in promising to be like what Twitter was and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But basically, it was the exact same thing as Twitter.
Hmm.
And I think everyone had high hopes for it too, because Twitter can be a bit of a cesspool, but ultimately it was not much better than Twitter. And because everyone was already so ingrained in Twitter, it's so hard to break out of that. And so like if you're trying to build an audience on Blue Sky, you have to like not be on Twitter. And if you're not on Twitter, you're kind of at a disadvantage in most
I
places.
agree, but also disagree to a
Okay.
point.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to say that because my main channel, like where I actually have the most an audience, was on Twitter.
Mhm.
But the recent changes over the last couple of years, I've noticed that I personally don't want to be on Twitter anymore. Not so much because of it's Twitter, but I don't see the things that I want to see on Twitter
Yep.
anymore. Whereas on Blue Sky, it's hard to grow on Blue Sky and it's hard to have two of the same sort of platforms, but at least I can see what I want to see from the people I want to see it from.
That's true.
So in that sense, I prefer Blue Sky.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. Like, I mean, Hive Social came out, Mastodon came out. Like, there's this
Yeah.
whole lot of platforms that came out, when Twitter got bought over.
Yeah.
And it just fizzled out because it's, like you said, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. So I think Blue Sky, from that point of view, probably does serve a purpose of serving direct content to people.
Yeah.
So where Twitter is still kind of algorithm based. So they probably both have their own places and they're just kind of slotting into whatever they don't fit. I guess like
Yeah.
another good example would be TikTok, not TikTok. What's the word? Where am I going with this? X and Twitch.
Yes.
So X is where all the Twitch rejects go. That's probably a harsh way to put it, but it's where all the people who don't fit the terms of use for Twitch go, right? So it has a purpose, I guess,
Yeah.
in a kind of crude way of saying it. I'm not a huge fan of X. So I'm not X, sorry, Kick. Did I say Kick or X?
You said X. That's why I was like, what do you mean?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
meant
Kick.
Kick. So
Yeah.
Kick
Okay.
and
Okay.
Twitch.
Yeah.
So Kick was a live streaming service to compete with Twitch.
Yes.
But there's only enough room for one streaming service, really. Like YouTube tried, and it's still not as good as Twitch. But Twitch X, bloody hell,
Kick.
is where all the Twitch streamers go who don't meet the terms of service. It's where all the gambling happens. It's where all the a little bit more questionable content occurs, and that's how it's found that slot of people. So it serves a purpose to an extent.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a good point. Every single platform serves a different purpose. So I guess as a creator, it would be very important to find what platform best suits your type of content and where your audience is.
Exactly. Yeah. I always actually I learned this the hard way when Mixer shut down. Mixer served a purpose that was very similar to Twitch.
Yep.
And it was interesting when Mixer shut down, because I could go to Twitch, but I learned very quickly that I put all my eggs in that Mixer basket, that when it shut down, it was one of those things of like, okay, now I can't take all my followers to go somewhere else, because that's not how people work. They unless they absolutely love your content and will follow you around everywhere, it's not going to work. I made that mistake where I went from Mixer straight to Twitter. So at that time, Twitter was a lot easier to navigate. Yes, it was still, largely negative, but I liked to break barriers and be positive on my platforms. And I put everything into Twitter, thinking I'm growing. I can see growth potential on Twitter. And now I'm in this position of, oh, I've put everything into Mixer, it's shut down. I put everything into Twitter, it's not working so well.
Yeah.
And now I need to grow on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. But I've not spent that same amount of time putting little bits into those platforms that I feel like I'm starting from scratch at
Yeah.
times.
Right.
And so for me, I look at it and I think everyone needs to be everywhere. Even
Yeah.
if it serves a purpose, even if that's where some audiences are, there's different pockets of audiences everywhere.
Mm.
You just need to make sure you're serving them in the right way, but make sure you're doing it, because you don't want to be in a situation where, let's say, tomorrow Instagram decides that they've got to shift the algorithm again, because they do every 3 months,
Yeah.
and they'd make weird choices. Sometimes it's real, sometimes it's carousel posts. You never really know. And if so happens it becomes another Twitter, well, at least you have YouTube and TikTok
Yeah.
or whatever other platform you've been building. You don't lose anything by doing it.
Yep.
And so that's definitely one thing that I had to learn the hard way is don't just go all in on one platform, because yeah, it's not fun having to try and build on another platform after the fact.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's also very hard to balance too, because
Mm,
like trying to be on all the platforms is very difficult. I
yeah.
guess if you're able to dissect your content up into different pieces, at
Mm,
least then you don't have to worry about trying to do the same thing on every single platform. It might make it a bit more manageable. How do you
mm.
manage being on all the platforms that you mentioned?
With great difficulty.
Mm.
um, I have been very fortunate that I have always been very true to my passions and what I want to make. And it's interesting because some content creators are all about serving their audience first. I, for some reason, have never really thought about it that way. I've always wanted to find people who like what I like.
Mm.
If they happen to be people who like other things and still want to come and talk to me about my love for comics, for example, great. So I never really, like I said, even with my writing, never imagined this to be like a career or anything that I could monetize or anything like that. I do it because I love it.
Yep.
So I'm very lucky that I will make a video about the latest episode of Daredevil. I'll put it on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. All the same content. And then I just let it sit there. And if people come and talk to me about it, great. If they don't, yeah, well, you
Okay.
know. Um, for me, it's more about the joy of putting what I love out there and
Yep.
hope that I find people who enjoy it as well, which I'm very, very grateful that I have. And I have had a lot of people love the things that I love and want to talk about it. Um, so yeah, I typically just do it that way, I suppose.
Hmm.
It helps because then I don't have to keep chopping and changing my content for each platform as well.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
it's
mean,
also beneficial.
that's
Yeah.
probably the biggest things. Like what, especially with YouTube Shorts now being
Yeah.
3 minutes long, it's probably a lot easier to do that. Previously, it was much harder.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I can't seem to crack into long form content because I am so bad at editing.
Mm.
It takes me a whole day to do like a minute video. I say
Oh,
whole day, but I get distracted because I have so many things that I'm doing elsewhere.
yep.
And it's hard to just sit down and just edit. I find it really, really hard to do. So it
Mm.
takes me a long time to edit a short form piece of content.
Yep.
And obviously that's with writing the script, filming it, voiceovers, all of that, putting all the
Yep.
images together.
B-roll
It
and
just,
yep.
yeah, it just takes a lot of time out of me. And so for me, I need to break into long form content. I know that's where I need to be, especially for YouTube,
Yep.
but I find it so hard and so challenging to do that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not easy. That's for sure. But it's some people though they are all they do is short form content, and
Mm,
that's where they're at. So it could be something like that, but trying to work
yeah,
out that machine is tricky.
yeah. I've also noticed, and this is something that I think my husband can attest to as well, is we're talking about that personality piece and people wanting to feel kinship with you and all of that. But
Mm.
he is a faces channel.
Yep.
He's never shown his face. In fact, he puts like a cardboard box in front of his like avatar. So no one knows what he actually looks like.
Yep.
And I have a dedicated comics channel where I just do voiceovers. I've never shown my face on there. And it's actually been doing really well.
Yep.
So again, it's that piece of like, I don't think people actually care whether you're on YouTube or not. Like your face is on YouTube and you're a personality and all of that. As
No.
long as it's educational content or it's entertaining,
Yep.
it works.
So
So
I think there's definitely merit to that. Like there's so many faceless channels on YouTube. The problem I think we'll start running into with faceless channels is that the kind of the cat's out of the bag on that. So a lot of people are starting to realize that you don't have to have your face on camera, and so there's mountains of faceless camera channels out there.
yeah.
And with like AI becoming so prominent, there's going to be even more challenges where people don't want to consume AI content, or AI content is just becoming crappy and misleading and stuff like that. And so people are going to start wanting to see faces again. And I think that's always kind of been there, because in most cases, if you were to do two channels, one with face, one without, I think the channel with a face in it is always going to do better because there's the connection.
Yeah.
There's like people want human connection more than
Exactly.
ever. So I think as much as it really comes down to like what you're trying to accomplish too. Like there's lots of creators out there who can get away with it and do it, and that's fine. But I mean, it really comes down to what you want to do and what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's definitely a good point that you've made. I think a lot of people in the future are going to go, oh, I don't really like hearing a robotic AI voice doing the narration.
Yep.
You know, like for me, my faceless channel, I still have my voice on there. I still read things. I still talk in the way I do. And I think that helps a little bit. And same for my husband. He doesn't, do AI voices or anything like that. But it does for me irk me a little bit when I know I'm hearing
that's right
that generic thing. I'm just like, I can't listen to this. It just doesn't translate for me.
For sure. And I think like my most successful videos on YouTube don't have my face in it at all. So you don't have to be stuck into the one basket of having a face or being faceless. Like you can chop and change it to suit.
Exactly.
I think with the way the world is going, your personal brand is extremely important. So like where we've got creators like streamers like Moist Critical out there, people know his face. He's a personal brand on his own. So these are like the important things where your face is becoming more and more important than ever. And it's and for a lot of people, it affects them professionally too. So it's just something to, I guess, consider when deciding whether or not you want to do faceless or not. Because it can also, I would struggle, like I think it would be a big challenge. I don't think this is proven on it, but I think it would be a big challenge to go from one to the other. Like you've almost got to decide early on what you want to do. Because if you're a faceless channel, or if you've got an avatar or something like that, if you ever did a face reveal, I feel like the magic would be lost.
Yes. I think it's easy if you've established very early on your face first and then moving into faceless. So for example, like for me, I've done for my main MissDeusGeek channel, because I'm so variety, games, pop culture, everything. Sometimes I do voiceover, sometimes I do face. Like people still know it's my voice and then it's my face.
Yep.
But then I think you're right. If I were to, on my comics channel, suddenly put my face on there, it'll be like, oh, that's what she looks like.
Well, and it's just like, it's always going to be the case. Like, who was it? There was that big Minecraft streamer, Dream. They did the face reveal. I think there's a bit of conspiracy and drama behind it all, but they did the face reveal, and then everyone's like, oh. Because like there's always going to be different expectations of whatever that person was meant to look like, or in their heads and stuff like that. And it's always going to, like, that magic will be ruined. So I think that's a challenging topic.
So the pro tip is show your face first and then transition.
Yeah.
Because that way it's not a big, and then do both.
Yeah.
Do both.
All right. So what's one of the biggest things that you've learned? So from all the things that we've been talking about, what's one of the biggest things you've learned from your journey that you think other people would learn from?
Pace yourself and don't try to do everything all at once. And I say that because, like I said, when I started in 2015, I was doing a full-time job, And then I did this, obviously the writing and all of it, which I call a side hustle, as a full-time side hustle on top of a full-time job. So
Mm.
it was like 60, 80 weeks, 80-hour weeks, right? My parents used to used to not feel very good about the fact that I would constantly come in and out. I was living with them at the time in 2015. I'd come in, say hi, and then I'm out the door for a premiere or an event or something, or I'm going to go see, my husband because we were working on it together.
Yep.
And they were just like, "You're always so busy. You're always so busy. When do you sleep?" And I'm like, "Oh, I come home at like 2 o'clock in the morning, sleep, and wake up for work and get out the door by 6." And they're like,
Yep.
"Oh, we never see you." So I'm like,
Mm.
well, that was, what I had to do to be able to do what I was doing because I loved it so much.
Yep.
Honestly, it wasn't a case of I was chasing, accolades or I was chasing money or anything like that. For me, I just loved it so much that it
Yeah.
just helped me just keep going. And I wanted to do it all. I wanted to review anime. I wanted to do, like I said, everything under the pop culture umbrella. And so I found that trying to do everything, and my husband was there to kind of watch these movies with me. He was always my plus one. He would have the anime because he used to work at JB Hi-Fi, and he would bring
Yep.
a new DVD or Blu-ray back home every day. We would watch it together and then we'd discuss it. But he wasn't helping me write the reviews. He didn't manage the website. He eventually had to because I told him I can't sustain this website
Mm.
because it started to grow beyond
Yeah.
my comprehension. I said, "Can you take care of some of the games and do reviews, and I will do all the other stuff?" And so that's when we started working together. But even then, I did the brand communications, like dealing with all the PR people, the marketing people, the back and forths of having to get press releases, churn it out into a piece of content, sending it
Yep.
back to them because I worked in PR and obviously in marketing as well. I appreciate when someone sends me a link to their content and I don't have to go hunting for it because
Yeah.
we write, obviously, I don't know if a lot of creators know this, but marketing and PR people have monthly reports that they have to do. If your link is not in there, there's a chance you may not get the opportunity again
Yeah.
because they don't know whether you made the content or not. So
Mm.
being proactive and sending them those links, telling them your feedback, giving them just that, appreciation for giving you the opportunity, all of that matters. And
Yep.
so I was sending emails galore all the time that I burnt out. Like I
Yeah.
think I've gone through maybe 3 or 4 burnouts in my lifetime. And in fact, I will be open and honest to say I'm actually getting going through counseling at the moment for extreme burnout
Mm.
because I have done this for so long that I've gone past just being typically burnout. I am in that extreme burnout phase
Yeah.
where,
Right.
it's just so hard for me sometimes to do something because I'm just so exhausted.
Mm.
And so, my biggest advice to people is pace yourself, know where your limits are. And, if you can use things like ChatGPT or whatever, like anything AI that helps your productivity, use it. Because
Yep.
back then we didn't have any of those tools.
Yeah.
And now you can put a prompt in like ChatGPT and you can get like a script written for you if you need to, and then you put it in your own tone of voice. Things like
Yeah.
that will help speed up your process.
Yep.
So I think having some project management experience will help a lot, just to be able to manage things. Use things like Trello to manage
Yeah. I use
your
ClickUp.
week. ClickUp. Okay,
Yeah.
I've not heard of that one.
Yeah.
Content calendars are really helpful as well. Just
Mm.
knowing what's happening when and being able to see things in the future, as
Yeah.
opposed to I used to do things on the dot there and then, as opposed to having things planned out because I was very reactive.
Yeah.
Whereas now in recent years I'm more proactive.
Well, being reactive, that is a quick path to burnout that I've learned.
Yeah,
Because
very
no
much.
matter what, if you're reactive to something, your attention like has to be focused on that point right away. Whereas if you can plan things ahead, you don't have to think about it until that time has
Yeah.
happened. So
Mm.
I guess that a lot of that comes with experience and practice. But a lot of people, that's something I had to learn myself and then figure out.
Hmm.
I think something pointed me in the right direction. I can't remember exactly what it was, but like
Mm.
I feel like for a lot of people, once they've kind of nut that, they go, "Oh, right, makes life a lot easier."
Yeah. once you figure out like either your process or a template or something just to make it a bit easier for you to do what you need to do, it just makes it so much easier because, like I said, burnout is not nice.
No.
And I've been through so many that sometimes I used to think like maybe I should just quit. As
Mm,
much as I love it, as much as this is something that I'm so passionate about, maybe I should just quit because it's not worth the stress that I feel. Like I've gone gray early because of all the stress that I've been going through. Because working full time is not a joke as well. Like you've got
mm,
so much that you're dealing with, especially when I was in a position where I was leading the content marketing team. I was doing things with influencers and creators and having to do that back and forth and constantly trying to battle the whole, yeah, but ROI is more important than followers and all of that. Like it's always interesting to have to you see things a certain way and you go, this is probably a lot easier to do, and then you've got people that are like, no, 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 we'll just do the old tried and trusted way of doing things.
mm,
So all of that, in I guess in a nutshell, is very exhausting.
yeah. It's interesting. So talking about like employers and doing the marketing stuff, um, like, oh, okay, I want to hold on to that thought, but like talk about burnout. So like I got burnt
Hmm.
out doing the Crator Dashboard and like everything, and that's why I
Hmm.
decided to stop it for a bit. And after all the
Yeah.
feedback, so I'm now having to like really refine my process. I've even started like appointments, putting that in my calendar so like I can actually manage it a bit more. And so
Hmm.
like being more organized, it's not just like something that like I think anyone at any point can do it. You've just got to put
Yeah.
the effort into doing it, and it makes a big difference, and it can help you avoid being burnt out because it is no joke. And
Hmm.
no, I appreciate you kind of sharing that you're going through that. It's a lot. It's a lot to be dealing with. But yeah, look after
Yeah.
yourself out there, creators.
Oh, yes. Creators, especially. I think I've seen so many friends go through it as well.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest, I don't want to say it's the hardest career path to be in, but
Mm,
it is one of those things where I don't think a lot of people are set up for success
yeah.
because it's not something you learn in schools. It's not something that there's like a guidebook of what you need to do. So they tend to go all in and then end up burnt out.
Yeah.
So I think it's really, really important for creators to remember that you really do need to look after yourself. You
Mm,
really have to take breaks, especially if you're not doing this full time.
yeah. Feels.
Yeah.
So kind of circling back to like working with brands and stuff like that. So obviously you've done a lot of work with brands. Obviously you do a lot of marketing yourself.
Mhm.
So what's something that creators really should know about when it comes to working with brands and doing content for them?
I think the most important thing is building that rapport is important early on. So, you wouldn't just go to a brand and go, "Hey, I'd like to do this for you. Let's work together." It's
Mm,
building the rapport early on. So if you meet them at PAXs or any other events, building the rapport, telling them, who you are, what you do. You need to have that genuine passion for the brand as well. I think that comes across really positively
yep.
because I do know a lot of people who will come to you and go, I want to work with you, but they know nothing about the brand. They know nothing about the products. They have no genuine interest in the products, and it comes across.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, I've had to play the bad cop in the past, where someone came to me just wanting to do content, and they knew nothing about anime, and I was just like, so why do you want to do content with us?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. So I think building rapport, really going for the brands that you are genuinely passionate about, really helps because then they know you're so passionate about it and that you're able to then produce content that is authentic.
Yep.
That goes a long way as well. And typically just shooting your shot with pictures, with showing them your ideas, making sure you're constantly looking at who are the other creators they're working with, what is that sort of content that they're enjoying, or what are they paying for, and then trying to tailor your content around that while still being unique, because
Yeah.
you don't just want to be like every other content creator that they were working with. You want to have a different kind of selling point. I think that's another thing that's really important. And I think, being able to just show up for yourself is really important.
Yep.
There are a lot of people who have, and I know this all too well, imposter syndrome is very big in the content creator industry as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think, I shouldn't go for that brand. They're too big. They won't want to pay someone like me. But you
Mm.
never know, because there are a lot of brands who, and we spoke about this earlier before we started recording, a lot of people care for UGC content, which is
Mm.
basically user generated content, where they might give you maybe product in exchange for a video that they can post on their socials.
Yeah.
Now, I know, I was very wrong in always working for free very early on. I
Yep.
was always happy for exposure. I was just happy to have the job. Um, I would not advise that anymore. Obviously, if you really, really can't get properly paid with money, and you can only get paid through a product or anything like that's still fine. You're still getting some value, but I think it's really important to make sure that there's a mutually beneficial
Exchange.
exchange
Yeah.
between the brand and the creator. So, for example, if you're getting product or contra, having that UGC content and having your content out there on their channels gives you that exposure, and you've established that working relationship. So the
Yep.
next time you can say, look, I've done XYZ for you. It did really well. Here are now my rates for content moving forward. And 9 times out of 10, brands are actually really open to paying. If they can't, they will be very apologetic and say, look, they don't have the budget this month. Maybe they'll look at it next month or next
Yep.
quarter or whatever. But brands are typically very good with wanting to pay content creators. I've spoken to a lot who have said, I think it's also helpful that we've got a shift in who are the marketing managers now. We've
Yeah.
got millennials and Gen Z,
Yeah. They kind of
So
get it a bit more. Yeah.
they get it a lot more. And so I
Yeah.
think they're a lot more open to discussions and negotiations. And they do want to try and be fair. So you don't have to be afraid to ask, because I think that's where the discussions stop, when you're too afraid to ask. So if you don't ask, you don't get,
Yep.
right? So I think, don't be afraid to ask for money, for
Mm.
content. Make sure you have set rates. I always advise people, and this is something I'm doing for myself and my husband as well, a package deal. So,
Yep.
for example, for one YouTube short, it's this amount. But if you want a YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, it's this amount. And you kind of give a discount for that, because they're getting value while also giving you pay that doesn't
Yeah.
break their bank,
So
if that makes sense.
on that, so a lot of this content you're talking about here is for
Mm-hmm.
them to post on their channels. Do you post any of this on your own, or is it?
I mean, I guess it's a two-way street. It depends on
Yep.
what the brand is wanting. If the
Mm.
brand is wanting content for their own channels, usually they will tell you whether they want it as a collaborative post where it'll exist on both channels, or you give it to them and they will post it on their channels. And sometimes that might even require a bit more pay, because then it becomes their content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or at the very least, like, you make sure to ask to be credited for that piece of content.
Yep.
But there are obviously a lot of campaigns where they want the creator posted on their own channels, because they want the creators' audiences to look at it.
Yeah. It's
So
it's interesting because the way algorithms work these days, they don't really promoted stuff. Algorithms. So like back, 5 years ago, even you could post something on TikTok, YouTube, Shorts wasn't a thing, but like Instagram, and it was more likely to be seen by your audience. But nowadays, with the way algorithms work, you could post up a piece of content and it may not even be seen. And the more sponsored it is, the less likely it's going to be seen.
I know that's all too well. I legitimately just posted. Obviously, as you might know, IEM is coming out at the end of the month. Tickets are pretty expensive and quite dear.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I've got a sponsored post where I'm giving away tickets to IEM. That should do well, right? I mean, people want to go, and they might not have been able to pay the full value for tickets. Surely it'll do well, because it's a branded post and it's a paid post.
Yep.
Instagram tanked it completely, and so I'm just like, no one wants free tickets.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard.
It's very hard. So I'm seeing a bit of a trend, and having going through it a bit myself last year, like, and I've kind of just thought this throughout this conversation. There's two different types of creators almost. You've got UGC creators for brands, and then you've got creators who kind of don't work with brands and they're doing stuff for their own audience.
Mm.
I'm kind of seeing there's almost two different types of content here. So like a lot of people label themselves a content creator broadly across everything, but then you've got people who they do really well at making branded content for other brands. It's like, I've done it myself, and I know a lot of people who have. That's almost a different category of content on its own. Like you can almost categorize those content creators as someone completely different. Because like I know a lot of creators who don't do much with brands and all they do is YouTube, and like it's like a completely different person you're talking to because they're not interested in talking to brands. Like what are your thoughts on that? Because
That's an interesting one. I mean, to me, anyone who creates content is a content creator, right? It's, I would say, like, even a child creating Roblox content is a content creator.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it just depends on what they want to do. Because content creation can be something that you do just for fun. Like, that's literally what I did and what
Yep.
I have always enjoyed doing. I just make content that I like making. And then brands come to me and it's like, it's a happy coincidence, or it's a happy thing when they come and go, hey, do you want to do this for us as well? But to a large extent, I'm just a content creator. I just make content.
Yep.
If a brand comes to me, I'm still a content creator. I just have branded work.
Yeah.
So I look at it that way. Like I personally, for me, I don't see it as two separate things, because let's say we were talking about the kid making Roblox content.
Yep.
Roblox might come to the kid and be like, hey, do you want to make like something special for us? And that kid might go, yeah, give me free, I don't know, I don't play Roblox, there's skins or whatever, I don't know, credits, and that's now a branded piece of content. But the kid, after the branded piece of content, will go back to just making his own content again. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting one to see it as two separate things.
Well, the reason why I think that is because I see a lot of creators who are doing lots with brands, and brands love working with them. And I think we mentioned it before, they almost become a talent to that company, right?
Yeah.
Despite that their main channels actually don't gather that much traction. Or don't have that much viewership. And like, I don't mean this to come across as like mean or anything in any way, because like it's great that they tend to do more work with brands and do really well as someone with talent, as a talent person for them.
I
But there's
guess,
almost
and
like,
that's, yeah, I think maybe like, I guess when you describe it that way, would you say that they maybe are more like a contractual employee, or just a contractor,
well, because it's probably not an official thing, but maybe it actually could be an official thing. So like you could be a creator for brands and you're just contracting yourself to be talent for them, because that's expensive. Like you could be a content creator for like brands employ content creators. It's a full-time job, and it's hard. It's not an easy thing for a brand to do. But if you contracted yourself to a brand to be a contracted talent to help them with videos and stuff like that, that's probably like a good, I don't know.
I would say that's actually a legitimate role in itself, because that's exactly what I've been seeing a lot of because obviously we spoke about me looking for work at the moment. There are a lot of brands out there that are looking for content creators. And when I look at the description, it's literally contract 3 months, 1 to 2 days, just to make videos for them, TikTok videos. Because like you said, like hiring full-time permanent TikTok content creator is going to be A, potentially unnecessary, B, super expensive. So what they will do is, I give you 3 months, we've got this campaign, create videos for us, here's your money, thank you, goodbye.
It's really hard. It's really unsustainable though for someone though. Like,
depends if you're really good at your job. So for example, like if you look at, for example, fashion and beauty industries will probably do that.
You almost
you
become a
become
contracted model for them in a sense.
Could be, like I think it actually gives content creators the perfect self business to run. You become a freelancer content creator or a contracted content creator, and you work with multiple clients. So you have one day where you work with, like, I don't know, Witchery, and the other day you go work for JB Hi-Fi, and then another day you go to work for like Reebok,
Mm,
and that becomes your full-time job. You're just doing content for all these different brands. You're self-managed,
yeah.
and you've got this epic portfolio because now you've worked with so many brands,
Yeah.
and it's a job in itself. And I
Well,
think that's something that content creators can look at
yeah,
in
for
terms of
sure. It's
careers.
it's a it's I don't know if it's an official thing already, but like I just see that
Mm.
at the moment, and it doesn't seem like an official thing, but it could be because the
Yeah, I
brands need it.
mean, they do, and that's the beauty of it, right? None of this has to exist on your personal account.
Mm,
It's
exactly right.
you.
So you
The
can just
brands
do it.
pay you, and you give it to them, basically. And so, I still think you're a content creator, though. Like that's
Yeah.
that's your role.
Yep.
So I think that's the beauty, but also the gray area in
Mm,
what is a content creator.
that's right. Yeah. It's it's a very interesting. I think anyone who's listening to this that who's kind of in that space, it's something to certainly consider because it's a it's a good idea. I think it's a pretty good idea.
I think so. I mean, you can. The beauty of it is also you're a contractor, so you get paid more than being an
Mm,
employee.
mm,
So it can be a very lucrative business if you're very good at video, if you're great at editing. So
yeah.
one of the key things that I've constantly seen is with these content creator like proper formal jobs that are going, yes, they're part-time or they're like a contracted couple of months, but they want a specific skill set. They want people who can understand how to make TikTok and Instagram content. They
Yep.
want people to understand the algorithm. They want people who can, video, edit, shoot content, script, all of that. So you still have to be the jack of all trades of content.
Yeah, which is tricky in its own. Like, it's actually quite a unique skill because, especially from a
Mm.
brand point of view, if it's a corporate brand, they're going to have a lot of hoops to jump through for you to make sure that content is to their standard. So
Yeah.
that can uncover its own kettle of own difficulties, I guess you could say.
Yeah, but I guess at the end of the day, it also helps because you just have to produce the content based on a brief.
Mm.
And if the brand didn't brief you very well, that's not your fault.
It's kind of it's actually probably falls in the same kind of area as like graphics designers. Like
Mm.
most graphics designers aren't in house these days; they're all
Yeah.
external contractors. So you
Mm.
become a external contracted talent for a brand.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think there is a major drawback though in that a lot of these accounts they thrive on the connection with the person, and if that person changes
Mm.
frequently,
Yes.
that can be a drawback. So I think there's something if a brand's listening to it, something to consider as well.
Well, I mean, that's the biggest hurdle I've had with having working with agencies over the course of 10 years. The agency stays the same, but the
Yeah.
account manager changes, and
Mm.
sometimes they don't know who you are because you
Yep.
establish a relationship with someone else in the
Right.
past.
Yeah. Yep.
So sometimes it can be really hard to have to constantly reintroduce yourself, having to
Like, oh yeah,
remind them, be like,
I did
yeah,
all.
this is what I did, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Like having to yeah, that's resell yourself every single time.
Yeah.
Yep. That can
Yeah,
be tricky.
but it's a very important thing. I think, unfortunately, people leave
Mm.
agencies, people leave, their roles, and it's just something that you have to do. Make sure
Yeah.
you have your media kits up and ready. Make sure you have your portfolio, and just reintroduce yourself every time someone new comes into the
Yeah.
business.
Awesome. All right. So, what's something that you do with your content, or just in general, that helps you improve your content?
Oh, I watch my content over and over and over. I have this terrible habit of, because I make short form content, it loops. So if I
Yep.
watch it once, it'll loop, and then I'll be like, okay, what did I miss this time? And I'll pick out. I'm very bad that I'm very hard on myself.
Yeah.
I have type A personality, so I'm always looking to improve and be better.
Yep.
And I hate my voice. I don't know what it is. I really cannot stand hearing myself. So
Most people are the same.
every time it loops and I hear myself again, it's like, how do I speak better? How do I make myself not sound like that?
Yeah.
Um, I just generally look at what I'm doing, and then I look at what others are doing, not to compare in terms of like, comparisons, but more, what did they do that I really like that I
Yep.
want to incorporate into my piece of content.
Yep.
So I do a lot of that, and I take inspiration from people that I genuinely love watching anyway.
Mm.
And so, I try to. There's this thing called yoink and twist that my husband came up with, which is basically you see something that you really like, you take it, but you put your own spin on it.
Yep.
And I think that's something
I like
that
that.
I like to do, because at the end of the day, I want my content to be authentic to me. So I don't want to just, I could easily look at someone who's doing, let's say, a piece of news on like the Superman movie or something, and I can just copy it and just do the exact same. But then that's not authentic to me.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and this is going back to, me mentioning that I make content that I enjoy. That's the same in my writing now. I don't just write every movie review. I pick and choose what movies I actually want to go and watch, and then I'll
Yep.
review it. Because ultimately for me, the improvement I'm looking at is making sure I'm authentic, making sure that I like my content. Because if I don't like it, how can I expect anyone else to? And that's why I really can't stand listening to myself talk.
At what point in this cycle do you actually do that review? Because I know a lot of people would probably not even post something, and you try to polish it until it hits a perfect point.
Yeah,
How do
I
you get past that point of just getting through with the job?
So typically I spend, like I said, because I take so long to edit, I'm constantly reviewing the content anyway. When it gets to a point that I'm like, yeah, I think that's okay, I'll put it up. I guess it comes, like you said, with practice and the fact that I've been, in this for like nearly a decade now. I just post, because to me, if I don't post, I'm going to second guess myself, and I'm not going to post it, and then
Yep.
it's going to be a whole waste of my entire day. And so I just post it and I let it do what it needs to do, and then I'll watch it on the platform and look at it that way. And if it's really, really bad, if I really see something, I'm just like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, then
Yep.
okay, maybe I'll take it down and I'll fix it up and then put it back up. But otherwise, if it's something that it's like, it's not that bad. I mean,
Yeah.
I could improve next time. I'll just leave it up.
Yep.
And I think, again, it's like what you said. It all comes down to practice and being just comfortable with just putting things up there. Because again, it's like what I said about showing up for yourself. It's the same thing. You made that content. You spent hours and hours doing it. You like, if you don't post it,
Then there's
all that work just goes nowhere, and you will never know. You
Yep.
will never know if
Because
it does well.
it could pop off, it could go really well,
Yeah,
and you would never know that was the case.
exactly. So I think, it's really important to. The good part about it is that if you're putting it on your own channels, it's your channel. It doesn't matter in the
Yep.
grand scheme of things. So I think like any hurdles that are holding someone back from posting is invisible.
Yeah.
There's no hurdle there. So I think, just go for it, and then just, if you don't like it, if you really, really don't like it, you're well within your power to just take it
Delete it.
down.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right. So we're getting towards the end of our session today. So what are the top 5 pieces of advice that you could give to creators?
Okay, the first one obviously is pace yourself and look after yourself. Secondly is, there's so many content creators out there, and you might think someone's doing better than you. You might think someone's so great that they're getting all of these work and all of that. Don't compare, because, everything you're doing, you need to be looking at your ball first, so to
Yep.
speak. All you're needing to do is compare. I look at it this way: you need to compare only yourself with who you were yesterday. If that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
basically, you're trying to always do better than you were the day before.
Yep.
And everyone who is out there doing content as well, look at them as inspiration. Look at them as motivators. Look at them as connections and friends, and people that you can learn from, as opposed to competition.
Yep.
Because, I think the biggest thing, and I know we're only at the second piece of advice, but maybe this is the third: there's always enough to go around. So, don't sell yourself short, because there's always enough to go around, even if it's just an opportunity that is just for exposure. There is plenty of that. I think the next one I would say is, learn and learn and learn. You always want to be learning, because I think this area, like content creation and social media especially, is ever changing, that if you stop learning, you're going to get lost,
Yep.
and you're not going to be able to keep up. And I guess the last thing would be, just be you.
Yep.
Like, I think there's just so many people trying to be someone they're not, and all these personas and all of that. Like, it's entertaining, yes, but at the end of the day, people, like you said, want connections with other people. And
Yep.
that's the key thing, right? People. So just be you. I think that's never gotten me anywhere bad. Like, I've always been true to myself. I've always just been myself and done what I enjoy.
Yep.
And I've been doing it for 10 years. So
Yep.
something must have, clicked, and I must be doing something right. So I
Yep.
think, it's really important to just be you and do what you enjoy, because that's the only way it's going to be sustainable.
I like it. So, what's something that you want to improve on or
Definitely my
learn more about?
editing.
Yeah.
Definitely my editing, because I want to make more content. I want to be faster with it,
Yeah.
because especially now, like, I am so into all the Marvel stuff that is coming out now, and there's just so much coming out.
Yeah.
I can't keep up with just trying to make content. It takes me days from the time I see it. I'm so excited. I record stuff, and then it's like, oh, but
You've
now I
already
have to edit.
missed the boat. Yeah.
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 So I definitely want to improve my editing and be faster with my process.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, yeah, I love talking about it, and I love sharing all of that excitement with people.
Mm.
Excitement and also disappointment at times.
With Marvel lately, it's for me, it's been a more disappointment than
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh,
I haven't been watching any of the TV series stuff. I just don't have the time to commit to it, and so I feel
fair.
like because of that, I'm so out of the
Hmm.
loop. Like I don't
Yeah,
know what's
no,
going
that
on.
a lot of people have mentioned this thing called superhero fatigue, which I completely understand. It's a lot out there, but
Mm.
when you're obsessed like me and you've been like this since you were like 3 or 4 years old, I'm in heaven right now,
Yeah, well,
basically.
I think it's kind of circling back to the core audience that's starting to like it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess they lost me after Endgame. Well, I watched One Division.
Okay.
One
Yeah.
Division was kind of like, and then there was like the Falcon and
Oh, yeah.
Winter
Hmm.
Soldier, and that kind of lost me. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if I.
Yeah, it's been a bit interesting with the TV series. It's just been here and there, but I have high hopes for the next Avenger movies, because I am such a big X-Men fan. And
Yep.
so then bringing back some of the OG characters, I'm just like, can't wait.
Awesome. Well, it's been fantastic having you on here.
Thank you for having
It's
me.
lots of like I guess 10 years worth of knowledge there. It's been really good. But yes, if you want to check out Miss Deus Geek's stuff, I'll put all the links in the description below. You can go check it all out there. It's been fantastic having you. And if you have enjoyed this, give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to the Crator Dashboard, hit the subscribe button. By the time this publishes, I will have a Discord available too. So if you want to join the Discord and we can join in the conversation, we can learn from each other and all that kind of fun stuff, that link will be in the description below as well. Thanks again for being here today. And yeah,
No, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
no worries. We'll catch you next time.